how to find an Hermes sales associate that's right for you. That's perhaps the number one question I get asked, is how to find an Hermes sales associate that will deliver quota bags. So in this video, I will be covering my best tips of how to find a sales associate that is right for you, and how to get their contact information, and how to work towards building a relationship with the sales associate that will later on result in quota bags. First, I'd like to start by saying that Hermes sales associates are very smart. They can kind of feel whenever you just want a quota bag and you're not interested in like a long-term relationship with a brand. So if you just want like one Birkin or one Kelly and you don't really like anything else from Hermes, then perhaps it's best for you to just buy one from a reseller, save yourself time and effort and money perhaps. Whew. Now that's out of the way, my conscience is clear. We can get to the part of how to find an Hermes sales associate that's right for you. Some people ask me like, how do I find a good sales associate? The answer is there's so many different people, and my best advice is to find the person that's right for you. And that's why I'm actually like kind of against when people give like recommendations or referrals. Like referrals in my book for Hermes is a big fat no, for so many different reasons, like so many reasons it can go wrong, which I'm happy to talk about later. So what I would recommend is find a person that works best for you. Now, if you have not started shopping at Hermes, if you're new, what I personally would do is I would go to an Hermes store, spend some time there, maybe like 30 to 40 minutes. I would look at the products, I would look at people, I would look at sales associates and just watch them. Maybe talk to a couple of them. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to start a purchase history. You can just talk to, Hermes sales associates and then see who you like and who you don't like. Usually you will have a pretty good intuition with whom conversation was flowing easy, who you felt like understood you, who you felt like knew what you wanted or was polite or made time for you, and who didn't, or who you just like felt like the conversation was forced and you had like nothing really to talk about. So I would avoid the latter. Now, ideally, this process would be repeated like a few times. Just go to Hermes a few times, because obviously Hermes sales associates, they have different schedules. You just go to talk to different people, and I guarantee you will find like someone that you feel comfortable with. Then you can start making purchases with that person, which will hopefully lead later down the line to a quota bag. Now, some of the things that are important in a relationship building, new relationship between a sales associate and a client, is appreciation and loyalty. I can't state the loyalty part enough. That's why you kind of go and you do your research before you commit. It's very similar to dating. You go on dates and then you actually become in a relationship with one person, right? Or usually, I don't know, like I know that maybe I'm old-fashioned, or maybe, some people are different, but usually that's how it works. So it works pretty similar with Hermes sales associates. Once you kind of like commit to one, I recommend staying, because if you go to one store, you shop with one person, you go to a different store, you shop with another person, you go back to the first store, you shop with a third person, it doesn't really look good for you. I would definitely put in some effort into doing a research, or like dating in a romantic relationship, going on dates, talking, figuring out if you click with that person before you commit to spending your money. Now, ideally, at the end of, your first purchase, you would ask your sales associate for contact information. In some countries, they're more willing to share that. In some countries, they're not. In some countries, they share email. It can be tricky, but in the US, usually they'll share their phone number. They have like work phone numbers. Then you can text them with, what you want, what you wish for, and then hoping, you get a reply. And then like after the first purchase, you see like how the sales associate is treating you, because, when you're not too deep, if there's something that goes wrong, your sales associate is not replying to you, you don't feel like you're a priority for them, they don't really care, or they don't really put in an effort, into keeping their side of the relationship, then of course it it's not too late to switch. It's sort of like, again, I'm going to bring up the analogy of a romantic relationship. So you date and then, like, you know, you can break up when you're in a relationship before you get married. But then, like, you know, when you've spent like a significant amount of money, then it's like harder. You're kind of like married to that person because, you know, eventually after you've become a good client, your sales associate should reward you with a quota bag, such as a Birkin or a Kelly. Now, I did not invent the system. I know how it sounds, and maybe me saying it out loud doesn't sound good, or some people have something against it. Again, I did not invent these rules. It is what it is, and my account is actually about giving tips around current policies of Hermes. It's what works for me, it's what I gather works for my followers. I interact a lot with my followers on my Instagram stories, and that's what you tell me. My assumptions of how to get a sales associate are based on my personal research. Now, why I don't think it's such a good idea to share a sales associate. You have a friend that's been a long-term client of Hermes, they get any bags they want, and you're like, set me up with this person. They set you up, and a lot of things can go wrong with a person who is looking for a sales associate or the person that is referring a sales associate. Hermes is a very complicated brand with a lot of nuances. That's why I don't recommend sharing sales associates. I have heard many stories over the years, you know, even within the same family, maybe your relationship with a sales associate is important to you, but to your family member or a friend, it will not be important. They will neglect the sales associate, they will shop with the sales associate, and then they'll turn around and shop with a new person, and it will badly reflect on you. And I've seen a lot of these things happen with product of Hermes. You refer someone, and then someone thinks that, like, you know, $600 or $700 or however much Oran sandals are right now is an outrageous price, you know, and it's one of the least expensive items that Hermes has. So yeah, like things like that I have seen go really wrong and reflect negatively on people referring. Or when it comes to quota bags, let's say a friend referred you and a friend is getting a bag that you want, or you're getting a bag that your friend wants, and like all of this unnecessary competition is not really good for family relationships or friendships. So that's why I kind of like tend to stay away from referrals, and whenever people ask me, like, I don't really recommend referrals. And also, if you are new to Hermes and somebody recommended you their sales associate, there is no reason that you will get along with that person. Because someone that recommended you a sales associate gets along with that person doesn't necessarily mean that you will. And also, if they have been a long-term client of that sales associate, that means that that sales associate has been there at Hermes for a while, and they have an established base of clientele that they reward, you know, if they're loyal. So you also don't really want that much competition to take on if you're new to Hermes. Like, I would do my own research and I would go with my own gut, with someone that I click with, someone that I think I can trust, you know, enough to try to have this relationship. I know that this video sounds very silly at times, but I'm just trying to be as honest as possible to set you up for success, if you know what I mean. And if you're just starting out with Hermes, I do have a guide with my top 5 tips on how to create a long-lasting relationship with Hermes, and my tips on how to score quota bags, and it's completely free. I'm going to link it below. If you want to get familiar with how to grow that relationship, feel free to get that guide, and let me know if you have any other questions about Hermes sales associates or any other questions. I'm always looking for feedback. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram because we have lots of discussions on my stories that are very informative, especially to beginners. As always, with love.